Long time? Would you all stand up, please? Get some blood flowing. Just stand up for a second. Now I'm going to take you through an exercise in which you get the blood flowing, you get some circulation. So first, move your arms around like this. Try not to hit the person next to you. Okay? Now I want you to put them out in front of you and do this. Right? Excellent. Great job. Now I want you to put one hand up and one hand down and do this. Louder. Thank you so much. I told my ma I was going to get a standing ovation in Dublin, so thank you so much. Sorry, I can't resist that one. Theo Lynn taught it to me.
Just check that you're okay with this.
Good to go?
Put the view you want.
Excellent. Not really, but I'll just wing it.
Sure?
Whatever. Yeah, that's fine. All right. Thanks a million. I am Eric Weaver. I am Vice President of Communication and Marketing Solutions with Xerox. Some of you may recognize me. I've been here. That's not me. I haven't had as much wisdom as Theo, okay? He's going to hate that picture. He's going to hate me. Watch. He'll be very angry when he finds out what happened here today. I've been coming here for about 6 years now, thanks to Theo. I lecture, guest lecture the digital marketing program and talk about different things, typically social and typically digital, but we're going to change the get social speech out a little bit, and I appreciate you being my very large class today. But thanks to Theo for having me and for putting up with me all these years. So I want to talk to you today about the word disruption, because, and I was fascinated by Paul's speech because I'm going to talk a little bit about the same thing. Disruption is something that a lot of consultants talk about breathlessly. They're excited about disruption. They gush about disruption, about how cool it is. And look at Airbnb and look at Uber and look at all these companies. Aren't they cool? Well, yes, but also everyone talks about disruption like it's a good thing. And disruption, frankly, sucks. It's awful. And I laugh when I see consultants talk about this without any kind of acknowledgement of what's really happening. We can see this with Brexit. We can see this with what's going on in the US. Disruption is not always accepted by everyone. I'm going to tell you a little bit story about my background. I grew up in Grand Rapids, Michigan, in the middle of nowhere, small town. Michigan is largely fueled by the auto industry. So in my town, we had 2 car factories, one of which stamped out sheet steel into the car bodies, and the other put in the seats and the trim and things like that. And I was a wee lad of 18 in 1979, probably younger than all of you. And I was working as a co-op student at the local car factory. And these machines, these presses are 40 feet high, they're huge, and they're stamping out doors and roofs and things like that. And when they come down and they smash that metal, the whole floor just shakes. It's like an earthquake all the time. The air is filled with oil and dirt. This is really gross, too much information. You blow your nose at the end of the day, and it's just like, oh my, I've been breathing that all day long. And it's dangerous. There's giant sheets of metal that you pick up with your gloves, and you drop them, and they will chop off your toes. They're that heavy, and they're that sharp. Or you're welding, and you use the welding press, and you put your hands up, and you hit the buttons, and the sparks burn through your safety glasses, or burn through your clothes, and burn your skin. It's a very dangerous job. Or it used to be. And my very first job as a wide-eyed 18-year-old was to take a company car and take the people who were too injured to work in the factory and too injured to go to the hospital in the factory to a real proper hospital and get them healed up. So you'd be walking through the factory and you'd see trails of blood, like a lot of blood, all the way to the plant hospital because this was such a dangerous job. And in the paint room, or the paint booth, the guys would spray the body panels by hand. A lot of times they wouldn't wear a respirator because that was back before we knew that was a really smart thing to do. So they'd be breathing in polyurethane, isocyanates, which are highly toxic, metal flakes, they'd get them in their eyes, they'd get them in their nose and their lungs, and it's really, really, it's a short lifespan working in the paint room. So You would think they would want a better solution, right? Fast forward to 1984, I was a controls engineer. I was assigned to put robots on the factory floor to prevent this from happening and to prevent this from happening. So since 1984, my job has really been to either disrupt a common process or to help a company deal with disruption. In this case, it was both. The Japanese car makers Nissan and Toyota really didn't have much of a footprint in the US, and they were kicking our butts because GM cars and Ford cars and Chryslers were made by highly paid, lowly motivated people, and we weren't doing a great job with building these cars. So the Japanese were disrupting us, and my job was to disrupt the factory by putting in robots. So we would put in these robots, and then we'd find this, often, every day, actually. We put in the controllers that moved the arms and did all the work, did the welding, did the painting, et cetera. And we'd come in, and inevitably, some person at third shift at 3 in the morning would smash them to bits. So we got smart, and we started encasing them in steel, and then out of the bottom of one, some cables would come out and go into the floor for power and things like that. And some idiot would come in on third shift and smash the hell out of the connectors for that. And so day after day after day, you wonder why cars cost so much, that we would have to reinvest in reinstalling these computers. So in the paint room, they were breathing in these metal flakes and stuff, and we put in these robots that did the most brilliant job. They would sort of sit there sleeping, and the car body would roll in on a robot, and the arms would wake up, and with one fluid motion, like a choreography, it would open the door, and it would spray up and down, one pass, every time, get it exactly right, exactly the same thickness. And because we magnetized the paint, it would go right to the car body instead of in your lungs. So you would think this would be a good thing, right? Healthier people. So I talked to one of the guys about this incident, and I said, you're making $17 an hour. Why don't you become a robotic programmer and make $117 an hour? And the answer was always nope, nope, nope. And there was a lot of peer pressure to say no. Because even if they might want that money, the rest of the factory workers would just beat the crap out of them. So there was a self-reinforcing system of a lack of innovation, a lack of change, and a lack of open-mindedness. And it was very hard to fight. But eventually, over the years, GM workers got replaced, and more people were skilled at robots. And now, if you walk into one of these factories, they're wearing white coats, they're wearing white respirators, and they're perfectly spotless. There's no paint on them anywhere. The air is clear. They're going to live a lot longer. So fast forward to 1994. I was a nerd, 33-year-old nerd. I was fascinated by the internet, and I taught myself HTML. And I was working for a Cincinnati ad agency that did work for Procter & Gamble. And P&G said, what's this World Wide Web? And should we be on it? This is Procter & Gamble. Each Procter & Gamble brand spends $1 billion on marketing. So we're talking about a lot of money here. And it was the very early days of spinning Netscape logos and things like that. Really bad art and resolution. And I was talking to my CFO, and I said, hey, Procter & Gamble called us. They want to know if we can build a website for them. And I said, we'll need an internet server, we'll need internet email, and some software. And he said, why do we need internet email? We have a perfectly good voicemail and fax system. Because from his perspective, he already invested money in this technology. Why would we need internet email? Who's on the internet anyways, 1994? So we know what's happened since that time. I was able to convince him that this was a good idea, and we built this ugly-ass png.com 1.0. And the funny thing about the internet, if you go back to archive.org and you look at any of these websites, they just look hideous. But back then, that was the shit. Pardon me. Can I say that here? Will I get kicked out forever? But this was really cool stuff, really advanced stuff, and very experimental back in 1994. Skip ahead to 1999. I was working for an ad agency in California, and our client was Lincoln Mercury. And I went to a dealers association meeting to convince them that they should sell cars on the internet. They were one of the first to think about it. And they booed and booed and booed. They tried to shout me down and shout me off the stage. My antiperspirant was working overtime. My professionalism, I was trying not to say some expletives towards them, and they were like, why do we want your internet? If we give people on the internet access to our prices and our margins and our shipping costs, et cetera, they'll know our secrets. And my point to them was, this is a new sales channel. This is a way to sell cars to people who aren't even in this area. So don't you want more sales and more money? And it was a very heated 2-hour meeting in which I almost walked off the stage several times, but at the end they agreed to try to do a test drive system on the internet, one of the first ones. And now, of course, every dealership in America has an internet manager, an internet sales manager, and they're selling cars over the internet. But these people did not want to change. Change was not in their blood, it was not in their nature, and they didn't want me rocking the boat. How many of you remember this place? I used to go in here all the time. I spent a ton of money and a ton of time down on Grafton Street in this HMV. And back then, that's where you went for any kind of music. Downloading took so long. We didn't download music onto our phones. We just bought it and then digitized it at home and put it on our weird-shaped MP3 player before the iPod came out. And this was, this closed down, I believe, in 2013. So even today, even recently, companies are really struggling to deal with digital disruption. It throws their business models off, it makes them close stores, it makes their employees cranky, it's just not easy. And as I've done this for so many years now, there are two universal truths that still hold true. One is that no one likes disruption, no one. Part of that is because teams get into an equilibrium and they like working with each other and they get a rhythm down, and as Paul was saying, they like simplicity, they like things to be known. And the second thing is that people, not technology, is the make or break aspect of transformation, people. It's never the tools, it's never the technology, it's the people. The people have to come along. You can't force them to do it, you can't force them to be open-minded, you have to create an environment and nurture that environment where they can feel open-minded and they can feel agile and they can feel open to change. So we've got two different forces working against each other, and this is all across any kind of organization of any size. We've got the sort of equilibrium that we have created by, we get a new product in, and so everyone sort of figures out how to produce the product and how to manage the product and how to market the product. And there's a system, an order of things that you follow to do those things. And once you get that sort of choreography down, you're good. Everyone's good. Everyone's like, okay, you're doing this and I'm doing that. They approve it, she approves it, we're good. And you get that equilibrium, and that's like, people who like to use trains, people who take trains every day to work, and they know their conductor, they know the schedule, they know the timetable, they know they're going to get their favorite seat, they know they can buy the ticket online, et cetera. There's a rhythm and an equilibrium. In the face of this is innovation, an endless flow of innovation that does not stop, it does not slow down, it gets faster and faster and faster and faster. And it's kind of an irresistible force. How many of you have heard of the Hyperloop? Anyone? You? So the Hyperloop is basically a vacuum tube that will run from San Francisco to Los Angeles. It's an experiment by Elon Musk, from the maker of Tesla. And it's basically an airline in a pod that they vacuum all the air out, and they shoot this thing 1,200 kilometers an hour. And you can get from LA to San Francisco in 35 minutes instead of driving 8 hours, or taking the train, which would be 6 hours. So this is a huge step forward compared to this, right? And it's going to take people a while to get used to this. It's going to take people a while to trust the technology, to not worry about terrorists, to let themselves go 1,200 kilometers an hour, et cetera. So companies are seeing these kind of changes happening, and this is not the future. This is not Star Trek. This is happening right now. MIT was recently awarded a research award from Elon Musk to develop this technology, and it's already out there. Now, this is the very first test that we did. So it's not very exact. So let's look at some other disruptors. Airbnb, everyone's heard of that. $28 billion valuation, 2 million listings in Airbnb, compared to the US's largest hotel chain, which is valued at $22 billion and has 500,000 rooms. So more selection, more coverage, and it's worth more. And this is just in 10 years that Airbnb has been around. Or no, sorry, 7 years. So this has happened very, very fast. Hilton didn't see this coming, Hyatt didn't see this coming, Premier didn't see this coming, and boom, they have to react to it. In some cases, they've reacted by trying to legislate their way around this problem, just as the cab companies have tried to legislate against Uber and Lyft. But oftentimes, in a free market, that doesn't work. So companies like Hilton, I would counsel them on how to prepare for this kind of a change. One Fine Stay is an Airbnb competitor. They're disrupting Airbnb. So Airbnb is the new thing, but now they're getting disrupted by someone else. And One Fine Stay is like Airbnb, but what they do is they give you access to, if you're in London, for example, they'll give you access to the concierge at the Hyatt Churchill, and you can book a play, you can go there and use their health club, you can go to the spa and get your nails done or whatever, and it's all part of the One Fine Stay package. So they're now disrupting Airbnb, and Airbnb is coming up with a strategy for how to deal with One Fine Stay. Let's talk about another poster child, Uber, that everyone holds up as an example of innovation. They were founded in 2010 in San Francisco. Man, they have just taken huge gains in many cities around the world very, very quickly. And Uber in West Coast cities like Seattle, Portland, and San Francisco, that's kind of the only thing that you take now. You avoid taxis because the service is crap. And you really want to be treated nicely, and you want a water bottle, and you want to get there cheaply, et cetera, et cetera. So Uber has really taken over in a huge way. Uber is now doing what they call Uber Eats. I don't know if it's here in Dublin yet, is it? Uber Eats? So Uber Eats will basically say they'll drive around the city center with 10 different kinds of meals. These are just random people, Uber drivers. And you use the app and you find the menu selection that you want. I want a sandwich, salmon sandwich. You press this. It orders it through Uber. They show up within 2 minutes, guaranteed, with a hot sandwich, and it goes to your credit card. You don't see a bill. You just go to the car, thank you very much, pick up your sandwich and walk away. Crazy, so convenient. Uber Rush uses the same idea to deliver packages. So they're now disrupting the big carriers like UPS and United Postal Service, et cetera. If they come here, I would bet they'll disrupt Irish Post, et cetera. So these are very, very rapid changes happening that will definitely disrupt the businesses that are here. 2015, Uber's valuation surpassed Ford, GM, Nissan, Chrysler, Hyundai, Renault. It only took them 5 years to be worth more money than a 107-year-old company. Think about that. That's digital disruption for real. And that's actually kind of shocking coming from the car business, where I used to work in those plants. And of course, not everyone's happy with this idea. We saw the riots where they were burning tires and blocking the channel in Paris. And a lot of people are very unhappy with this idea of it coming to their country. And there's been legal challenges, not only in American cities, but also in London, Paris, and elsewhere. So these folks were not brought along with the disruption, nor was there any attempt to bring them along. Now, Uber, to Uber's credit, whether you like them or hate them, has done outreach. They actually send Uber representatives into taxis and try to talk the guys as they're driving them someplace into joining Uber. So it's a little sneaky, right? It's a little stealthy, but they have convinced a number of people to join Uber. It's got its issues for sure, but they are a huge disruptive force. At first, when I was hearing about the riots, I'm like, why are they rioting? I mean, this is just, evolution, and it's a good thing, and more choices for the consumer, better customer experience, blah, 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 typical consultant BS. And then I saw that San Francisco's largest cab company in Uber's home was going bankrupt, and over 500 drivers were being let go on the streets. So this is a disruptive force. This does cause economic uncertainty, and it does create challenges for companies to deal with. So this is kind of crazy. This year, as of 5 weeks ago, Uber is being disrupted by Amazon and their drones. And let me show you a video. It's a little bit of an Amazon commercial, pardon me for that, but it is kind of shocking. This just happened a few weeks ago.
Amazon is developing a service to use drones to safely deliver packages to customers in 30 minutes or less. It's called Prime Air. We've started a new private trial for customers in the Cambridge area of England, and on December 7th, we completed our first delivery. Customers will choose from a selection of thousands of items tucked away in a Prime Air fulfillment center located just over the horizon from their homes. We have been operating fulfillment centers for quite a while now, but this one is unlike all the rest. These modest-looking buildings contain innovative Prime Air technology. Here's how it works. Moments after receiving the order, an electrically powered Amazon drone makes its way down an automated track and then rises into the sky with the customer's package on board. These drones are autonomous. From takeoff to landing and return, they operate completely on their own. Cruising quietly below 400 feet, carrying packages up to 5 pounds, and guided by GPS, our systems are designed to find their destinations safely. Within 30 minutes of placing the order, the customer receives their package. For this initial trial, customers can choose from the latest tech gadgets to their dog's favorite biscuits. We will use the data gathered during this beta test and the feedback provided by customers to expand the private trial to more customers over time. We're starting with 2 customers now, and in the coming months, we'll offer participation to dozens of customers living within several miles of our UK facility, and then growing to hundreds more. After that, well, it'd be easy to say, the sky's the limit. But that's not exactly true anymore, is it?
Madness. It's awesome and crazy and all these different things at once. And I don't work for Amazon, and I don't get a kickback, by the way. But this kind of stuff blows my mind, and it's not the future, it's 5 weeks ago. So just think about that. Not only is the pace of innovation just accelerating more and more and more, but it's also stuff that we're not necessarily ready to deal with. And now, don't get me wrong, I am not dissing or being negative towards any of this stuff. The geek in me is really excited about it, to be honest. But I also, in my job, I have to evaluate technologies for my clients, whether they be positive or negative or a combination of both. And so I have to analyze, okay, so this is great and it's pretty cool and it's pretty exciting, but what does it mean? What's the downside? And why are you not going to the next page? That is exactly the wrong thing I wanted to happen. There we go. Sorry. Yes, okay. So, this happened in October. Uber hired drones to fly over cars and traffic in Mexico City with ads. Do you really want to be stuck in traffic right now? Don't you want to go in the carpool lane? So imagine you're driving along, you're listening to some really mellow tune on your stereo, and all of a sudden this thing is buzzing your car, and maybe the page is hanging down flopping like this, and it crashes into the lorry next to it or whatever. I mean, this is happening right now. This is happening 4 months ago. This is not the future. This actually disturbs me because this is advertised as being bastards, to be honest, but it's a stunt that got awareness for sure, but are we ready for this? That's the question. Are drones a good thing, or are they kind of crazy? And what happens when this happens? Oops, the drone didn't properly pick up the package and it dropped it down to the roadway and there's an accident. Are we ready for that, for drones flying over the roads? And again, I'm not dissing Uber or drones or Amazon or any of this stuff, but I think the pace of the technology is happening way faster than we're ready for, and we haven't thought through all the ramifications yet. And not only are we as organic creatures not quite able to deal with the change and the pace of change, but we're also not thinking through necessarily all the ramifications, positive and negative. So that said, it's happening. And if you run a business, if you are Xerox, for example, or if you're Amazon or anyone else, You have to be ready for this stuff, and you have to identify ways to make your own company more resilient and more agile to deal with the inevitable onslaught of this innovation. You also have to train your people to let go a little bit of the equilibrium that they've established so that they do not fight you on adopting and adapting to this innovation. This pace has so freaked out CEOs that 75% of them approximately are concerned about one fine stay, Uber, Airbnb, companies coming in and cleaning their clocks, coming at them from the side they never saw them coming, and disrupting their business. And 77% anticipate massive digital disruption in their category, not necessarily their company, but their category, by the end of this year. They're that concerned about the pace, and they feel that sense of urgency about changing internally. Half of them, though, have not even started the process of transforming, and a third are too scared to try it this year. They're going to kind of put it off and wait and see what everyone else does and see what's doable. So you've got people like my bosses who need to start. Many team members in these companies are afraid to start because it's risky politically, right, to make changes and to suggest changes. And they feel the clock ticking, the time is running out, so how do we transform? What do we do? What do we adopt? What don't we adopt, et cetera? And there's a easy process, relatively easy process of sort of things to ask and things to go through as companies are trying to become more transformative and more innovative. One is to audit the organization and really take a look at processes. This is not an easy thing. It requires a process consultant who is able to do all this kind of stuff. But to work through what's working, what's not working, where are the handoffs, when does marketing talk to corporate communications, when does operations talk to customer care, what kind of information do they pass, who's in charge when a social crisis blows up, who's in charge when a new product comes out and someone hasn't told the call center that this new product is out and they're going to have to deal with the help calls. There's all these sort of procedural choreography that has to happen, and a lot of times that's not even mapped out. It's just sort of organic processes people have come to accept and enjoy, and it's an issue. Systems and tools. A lot of companies don't have the data that they need, or they have too much data, they don't know what to do with it. What's missing? And the people. The people are the biggest challenge and the biggest opportunity, because if you tap their creativity, you're going to get a lot of great ideas. If you force change down their throat, they're going to hate you and they're going to fight it every step of the way. The competitors, what are they doing? What are they announcing? What are they missing? What opportunities are there for you to outcompete with them? And then finally, can you see what's down the road? Most public companies who are publicly traded are just looking at the next quarter. That's it. That's all that matters. Did they hit the guidance number that they gave to their analysts? Are they going to achieve their stock price or not? Are they going to hit their production numbers or whatever? So when you're only looking at the ground, you're not looking up to see where the competitive threats are, where the Airbnbs are coming if you're Hyatt, and where the Ubers are coming if you're Ford. You're not quite ready if your vision is not set that way. Step 2, you have to foster a culture where change isn't a dirty word and people's great ideas don't get shot in the head. A lot of companies do not incent their employees. They do not pay their employees for great ideas. They don't encourage them to think creatively. If you do, no good deed goes unpunished. They'll typically, people will be like, hey, great idea, pat, here's a glass of milk, go back to bed. And so you can't take that attitude with your employees, or they'll shut down, and they'll stay shut down, and there'll be obstacles as you try to transform your organization. DCU holds hackathons and innovation days and things like that, which are great. Companies should do that also. If you don't pay your employees now for the great ideas, you will pay later when some other business or industry comes along and wipes yours out. And ask your employees to think about their tools and think about the things they use. How many of you are familiar with Yammer? Anyone? No one? Okay. A couple? You're lucky. So Yammer is the Twitter for the corporate world, and it's now purchased by Microsoft. And so you're supposed to, the boss will send out an email that says, we just bought Yammer for $20,000 a month. We want you to use it and share your creative ideas. And everyone's just like, really? And when they do that, it becomes this thing you're supposed to do, but no one really does, so it becomes a ghost town. So that's a common area where companies will force a tool on their employees, and there's no warm-up, there's no nothing. You're just expected to do it, and of course, people fight it. The next time you're afraid to share ideas, remember someone once said in a meeting, let's make a film with a tornado full of sharks. How many of you seen Sharknado 3? Did you know there's 3 now? Terrible, terrible, terrible film. But fearlessness is important for companies to foster, because you can't be afraid to tell your boss of a really cool idea that will save the company money. And if you create an employee workforce like that, then you're kind of dumb. And then here's an example. Google is great at paying for innovation from its employees. 3M also. 35% of their revenue comes from ideas that their employees created in the last 4 years. That's really impressive. So they have a very aggressive program to pay their employees for cool ideas and then implement them. Step 3, create a path. So you now know through your audit where you are today, how unagile or how inflexible to change the company is or the organization. And now you know where you want to go, so you have to create this path to get there. So an innovation management plan is good. I'm not going to bore you. You're mostly students. I'm not going to bore you with all this stuff. But basically, the idea is, here's a tip I'll give you that will help you for the rest of your careers. Are you ready? Find out what gets your boss their bonus, and keep telling them that that's what you want to do. You want to help them get their bonus. They will love you forever. And as cheesy as that sounds, I find this works with clients too. I'll come in my suit and I'll be like, hey, we're here to help you innovate your marketing automation solution or whatever. And they'll be listening. It's kind of like Charlie Brown's teacher, like, you know, they're not really listening. And then if you say, I'm here to get you your bonus, there's a moment of sort of confused silence. They're like, oh, this is a very unusual conversation you're having. And after a minute, they realize that you were really there to get them their bonus. They're like, cool. And then they want to help you get them their bonus. And so instead of fighting you and blocking it, they're on board. And that's kind of what you have to do also with employees when you're a manager and you want to change the company to become more agile. You have to get them on board. You have to make it personal and rewarding for them to see it your way. So I'm going to wrap this up. You'll be thankful. It's awfully hot in here, isn't it? When you're the manager and you're trying to get your mates and your team to get on board with stuff, encourage them, don't force them. Obvious one-on-one kind of stuff, but no one likes to be forced. Ask people to be open-minded, not to be digital. How many of you have parents who just don't get it? You try to explain Snapchat to them, you try to explain a mobile phone to them, and they just don't get it. They think they're going to start World War III by pressing the wrong button. How many of you have grandparents or parents like that? I mean, it's kind of prevalent, right? My generation, it's like technophobes a little bit. But when you're talking to folks like that, or you've got employees like that, encourage them to be open-minded, not digital. Not everyone has to be digital. Not everyone has to be technical. To Paul's point, not to dismiss his point, if you're going into marketing, you better be digital. But some people are not going to make it that journey. Some people are not going to be able to do that. Those people should not go into marketing. But if you want them on your side and you're doing innovation, you should definitely push the open-minded button, not the digital button so much. Let them choose their own tools and processes, very important, because who wants to be forced to do anything? And then finally, challenge them to challenge their own thinking. And 30% of the innovations that have come up have come from outside a category. So Ford did not see Uber coming because it wasn't a car maker, right? They dismissed Tesla at first because it was an electric car. How could it possibly have the excitement and fun and acceleration of a gas-powered vehicle like a Corvette? Damn easily it would turn out. So challenge people to challenge their own thinking, including yours. And finally, when you're the manager, it's all on you. Because your bosses will be old, and they won't get the advantage of being more innovative or more digital. And the people working for you might be afraid to take some risks and make some changes. So I really want to encourage you that it's on you to make stuff happen at your company. If it's all like go big or go home, right? Like when something is threatening the company, you can either step up and do something out of the box, weird, cool, open-minded, and fix the problem, or you can just sort of sit back and worry about your job getting taken away. That's exactly the wrong thing to do. It will be gone. So I really want to encourage you guys to think that way. I have to be a management whisperer. I have to be a cheerleader. I have to be a spirit guide. I have to guide people through this stuff because it's not easy for them a lot of times. And we've seen what happened with Brexit. We've seen what happened with Trump. And I swore I wouldn't use that word today. I'm sorry. So when you do this, provide regular updates to your team. Let everyone know what's going on. Reward people for being innovative. Give them awards. Give them recognition. And talk about the team's success stories. And there are many, many, many companies who have gone out of business. Blockbuster, Borders, Radio Shack, et cetera. They did not anticipate the force of innovation that was coming, and they did not try to transform their immovable people and processes, and they're gone. Adios. That's it. Thank you very much. Let me see if we have time for questions. Is Key in here? Do we have time for questions? Is there any mic runners or anything? Getting out a little early. Any questions at all before you all run out of here? Anyone? Yes. And yell for us, please. What disruption is coming in Europe? Oh, in my business, every kind imaginable. So let me just be completely transparent here. Xerox is not an innovative company. They used to be. They created PARC, the Palo Alto Research Center. They created the mouse. They created the graphic interface. They created the laptop computer. They created all these amazing technologies, but they didn't tie it to, at the time, a sellable business. And we all know the story. Steve Jobs came along and took all the credit and everything. So Xerox has learned painfully from that mistake, and now they're doing things like hooking up Alexa to computers to automatically print things with your voice. So they're not dashingly innovative, but we're working on it. Other questions? See another hand somewhere? You're all just dying to get the hell out of here, aren't you? All right, thank you very much. It's been a great audience.